Hey guys, afternoon. It's Monday, I believe, day 44 of the devlog. Now, we have finally, I think, crushed our strange problems that persisted for a couple of days. And one of the things that I did was, for some reason, right, don't ask me why, don't ask me how. But this particular widget was causing trouble, and it was always these things here. Okay, so basically what I did was I opened this widget, and this happens a lot when you use a lot of structures, right? But in that case, normally what happens is you get problems when you build. Okay, in between builds, if you change a lot of structures, then what happens is you've maybe not updated or recompiled or refreshed the nodes on a widget or blueprint that uses that structure, right? In this case, this was just giving me some strange error. Now, what I could do was basically refresh these, but then the next time I loaded it up, it would cause me a problem again, right? So basically, if you come across a weird thing like this, then open the corresponding widget, go to the graph, and this is also for if you get strange structures not found or weird messages when you're building, right? All you need to do is come in here, refresh all nodes, do it and again file, and then compile again. Now, if you've got a mismatch in your structure at that point, then you can fix it. If it all actually just works, compiles and refreshes, then you can pretty much say that that is going to fix it, right? And after that, it was a problem with these two nodes. So basically I replaced these two nodes. So basically I got filtered items, then I did a new for each loop, connected these, recreated this, connected it all up again, and we haven't had an error today, which normally when I start it for the first time for the day, then it does give us an error, but today we are back. Hi, generic NPC. Indeed. So, that was just a little update on the strange issues. Now, the other thing was my colleague kind of came up with an idea. Hi, Stormrun. Hi, guys. How you doing? Hoping to get to 700 subscribers today. Don't know if it'll happen, but we'll see. Right. I'm going to show you my thought process when I'm creating stuff, right? Now, I'm going to show you what we had originally, if I can. Basically, Kent created a new widget. Now, I don't know if I have it. Yes, we do, right? Now, Kent had created this sort of outline of a widget, right? And the idea was to put, he was putting text in here, right? So yeah, you will need a post-processing volume. That's kind of one of the basic things you always put in. You always put in a nav mesh volume, you always put in a processing volume, you always put in a, what is it? Like the lighting one for, there's a couple of them actually. Right, in that case not that. Well, while I'm at it here, we shall do this so you guys can see it better. Okay. And we can drag this down a bit. Controls. So you'll need your landscape. Your landscape, that'll automatically create the gizmo thing, nav mesh bounds volume, post-processing volume, recast nav mesh will automatically be created for you. It's something you do at the very start. These are the basics to, in this case we're using Ultra Dynamic Sky, right, which is an asset, but what you'll do is basically come over here, right, click on volumes, so you'll add a light mass importance volume, that's one of them, nav mesh bounds volume, post-process volume, and then you'll add a sky thingy. Can't remember what it's called, right? Let me have a look. Then you'll add a skylight and directional light probably. Okay. The post-process volume, you can use it for different things as well. Like you can do it for like outlining objects and stuff like that. But they've got to be in the post-process volume. Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of these things are a couple of day tutorial on their own, how to use it properly. I'm no expert on that at all, right? Normally I just get lights to work and I'm quite happy if some lighting works, right? And looks kind of half semi-reasonable, right? So what we were looking at was generic NPC. I hope it's out before 2024 because I'll be out on the street by then. But yeah, it's good to have you, mate. Nice to see you here, and you're welcome anytime. So let's go over my thought process when I saw this, right? Now, these all come from an asset pack for like Viking UI stuff, right? So, we're working from a base of icons we have, images we have, frames we have, buttons we have, etc, right? Now, here's the thing. I don't like this, right? Because this is obviously supposed to be like for action buttons or something, right? Two sets of action buttons, right? So basically, the first thing I did was got rid of that, okay? And I thought, right, okay, what if I got rid of this middle section? As I said, this might help you guys, it might not. I'm just telling you how my thought process works, right? And how I end up doing what I do. I'm pretty good at repurposing stuff, going off on a little tangent, just to get something that I want from assets that we maybe already have but not quite, if you know what I mean. Right, so this is what we started with, okay? So what I thought was, well, this is good, this is bad, right? Not that I don't like the image or the thing, it's just not suitable. Oh, Weeb Game Lover, have I hit 700 subscribers? Oh, 701, way! Thank you very much, guys. I would throw confetti, but I don't have any. And nice to see you here, Weeb. So, right, my thought process was this, right? I like the outside. I like the axes, the sort of imagery, the Viking sort of writing scrolly thing in the edge, but the problem is this centre part, okay? So basically what I did, and you guys can do this with any asset as well. Why, thank you, wee Bolivar. Check the description, join the Discord server for the game. Right? So, basically what I did was I exported this, right? I removed this. I took a section of this, copied it, and replaced this centre part. Okay? So that it didn't have the break in the middle. But I still thought, well, I still like this shield. Okay? So I took the image again. I removed all of this stuff around the edge. Removed all this. And just left the shield. Okay? And so, what we ended up with, it's not perfect, I'll grant you, but if you weren't to investigate it, you probably wouldn't know the difference. So we will have a look at what I created. Now remember, my colleague wanted a text box, so basically I took a button and then I just, in Photoshop, or well, I don't use Photoshop, but paint.net, I just added this as a layer, put this on top, and that gives us our Viking themed text box. Okay. And similarly, I can show you this in the actual, if I go to interactable items, you'll remember our two axes. Now I'm going to take you through the next part because there's more to it than that, right? These buttons, as you can see, they all say Z. Okay, now that's intentional, right? Because I wanted to make sure that my buttons were working. Okay? And they were using the correct key bindings. So you can see that I've taken out the middle section and we now have our nice axes on the side, and we now have a very nice interact. Okay, so before we carry on, I am next let's have a look at, can I maybe have an image of the old interact buttons. Give me a second, right, and I'll show you what it used to look like. Okay, I think that would be the best idea. Right, here we go. So here you can see our use button. I think that's the only one with the interact menu open. Right, so this was what it used to look like. Okay. And as of last night at a very late hour, right, this is what it now looks like. So in the original picture there, sorry, I went and closed it down. I'll open it back up. Right, let me see this. Okay, so all this was basically a hard-coded R button, right? That image there, yes, should work, yeah, Storm. This is just a horizontal box, right, with 2 items in it. This is just an R button. As I said, this is an actual image with the R in it, right? But now we have it wrapped in a nice circle, still in our theme. We're still using widgets and images and UI things from our scheme, but now our buttons come directly from our keybinds. Okay, so let's go through that. I'll let you see it in action and I'll let you see the text box, okay? In play. Okay, so this is now our text box. You can see that we've got an F and a C, okay? Now, remember the F and the C, okay, for pick up, take and inspect, okay? Now remember, our widget actually says Z, okay? So, let's have a look at our speaking box. Don't worry about the guy sliding about the floor. There is our speaking box. Okay. I think it goes away after 10 seconds or something, I'm not 100% sure. There we go. Okay. So there is our two brand new UI items in action. And what we're going to look at, remember, is our F and our C. Okay, now, if we go to our project settings, you will notice when I go to input, we go to our action mappings, we have our pickup F and our inspect C. Okay, so it's taking our actual key binding keys and making our widget with them, so that when So what I'm going to do, right, is I'm going to prove it to you. We've got our inspect. Okay. Now we could do this in the menu, but I'll just do it here, right? We'll press, let's say, B. Okay, so we've got B. Now, as I said, we could change this in our actual menu, but just quicker to do it that way. And now you can see that inspect says B. Okay, pretty cool, huh? So we are reading our, so what I do, right, is I do it in the game mode. So when basically you load up the level, it's going to run the game mode. Okay, and I created a game mode object. Okay, if I can find it, it's in main BPS. So we have GM for game mode, Greenland. Okay, and what we do is this, right? I've got 4, these are our 4 interactions, right? So these are the 4 keys that we want to do something with. We've got the use key, pickup key, inspect key, and info key. Okay, and what we do is we get the key bindings from here, and if they match the correct action name, right, so these are our action names that we set up in our action mappings. If this is true, then we set the info keys. Okay, and this node here, I want to explain this to you guys. I don't know if any of you guys are as far as on as doing key bindings or stuff, right? But this one eluded me for, well, basically till last night, right? And it is so goddamn simple. And you'll have come across this yourself if you use Unreal Engine. Some things are so simple that they're hidden from you, right? So I'll explain what happened, right? So I knew to get this, right? And basically I knew to break out this key mapping, right? Now, this is where I was scratching my hair out for about half an hour, trying to work out how to get the letter, right? Now, the key to it is this get key display name, right? But I'll show you what, if you don't know about this, I'll show you the problem you have, right? I'll actually do it and let you see. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click that. I'm going to bring these all up here, right? So what I was doing was I was coming in here, I was setting a breakpoint here, right? Now this is going to run immediately, so we can break straight away, right? And I'll show you exactly what happened. And this is what can happen in Unreal Engine, right? You'll come across this yourself if you're just starting out, like Storm Run. This is going to happen to you a few times, right? Where the answer is in front of you, but you can't see it because it's one of these things you either know or you don't know. And if you don't know, you'll probably end up going to get confused and all the rest of it, right? But anyway, let's have a look at this. So at this point, forget these two are here, right? And this is what I had last night. So I'm like, okay, let's run it. Okay, we've got our breakpoint, great. I was like, okay, we're getting our mappings. And I was hovering over here and I was going, right, action, interact, key R. Right, great. And then I'm going, right. So it's not going to be that action name, right? We want the actual key, right? So I was like, okay, the key. And I was like that. Right, okay, we've got action name interact, B shift false, control false, alt false, command false, key R. It's like, right, simple as. Just break out the key. Right, I'll have to stop for a second again. Break out the key, right, break the structure, and get the key. Oh. Interaction profile? Well, that doesn't sound like it. Interaction profile, handedness, motion source? No, that doesn't sound right. Hand? E-controller hand enum? No, that doesn't sound right. Motion source? No, that doesn't sound right either. Identifier. It must be identifier, right? So I plugged that in, gave me nothing. Like, okay, is it component? Plug that in, nothing. Like, all I want is this R, right? How do I get the R? So I had to search about on the internet, as you do when you've got problems like this, right? And you'll realise that what you end up doing is you find out that there's like all the stuff. It's like, how do you ask the question about this? What's the key in the key binding? Well, it tells you how to bind it. It tells you, you know, go to input in the project settings, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't tell you any of this. And then somehow, and I can't even remember, there was somewhere, and I don't think it was even mentioned in one of the things that, it wasn't like in one of the ones that were, the subjects that were related or closely related to what I was actually trying to get the information on, right? And then I came across this, get key display name. And it was as simple as that, right? That's all it is. But as I said, last night I went through breaking this, so how do you get the thing back? And this thing is just one of those, you know, one of those things you either know it or you don't. That was the answer. Anyway, so when I load up the game, these are passed in here, so I only need to do it once, right? And then once we come into the interact, right, when we draw this, okay, what I did was this function here, fill key text. And all that basically does is reads, loads in the game mode, casts it to the game mode, and then we get our keys and we set our text, okay? And that's how all of that came about, okay? So I basically never need to change this again. This is going to work however somebody changes their button configuration, okay? Doesn't matter what they pick, right? This will work because it reads directly the keybind, okay? So that, my friends, is a story of the keybind buttons. And I hope you have found that in some way useful. Right, basically if you want a little bit further explanation here, I'm just setting this into a sequence of 4 because we've got our 4 buttons. So we just set our use, then we set our take, then we set our inspect, and then Z info, right? So these relate to the 4 sequences, so we just go here, fill that text box, fill that text box, that text box, and that text box, okay? And there you have it. So, what you got to remember here, guys, is if, and this is a follow on to chopping up and using the assets you've got and repurposing them and doing things with them that aren't necessarily what was intended, right? So, let's have a look at a couple icons. Well, I could use this, right? All I would need to do is export this, then use this pattern, okay? So when you look at your assets, don't just look at the individual assets, look at how the assets are made up, right? And then take things from them and think to yourself, well, how could I use this or that or the other, right? And this can be for any asset pack you have, right? Or any set of assets you have. So here is what I ended up with, right? I made 2 versions of it, a 256 by 256 and a 512 by 512, right? And then, so these were made in paint.net and then re-imported like that. Okay? You might need to do a lighting rebuild or something, or you might need to switch your lighting to dynamic. Okay, so as I said, we ended up with this as our text box, which is made up of the shield that we actually cut out of another asset, or so, well, it is another asset. It's this bar here. So this is this shield here, just isolated, right? In Photoshop or whatever your favorite thing is. Okay. Now, what you've got to consider here, or the way I would be looking at this and already have, right, is this is a nice hammer. Right? I could isolate this hammer. Right? We could possibly give me a second, Bax. Right, so I could isolate that hammer, then I could isolate, well, you could always flip them right enough. You could isolate that hammer and then have crossed hammers, right? As a brand new asset that's basically stripped out another asset, right? If you wanted just this, like insignia, you could cut this out and make it into a new asset, right? There is one that I've got designs on, right, that I thought would actually be nice, and I'll show you how my thought process works with that. Right, there's certain ones here, it's not that one, once I find it, right, could be this, except it's not. I'll find it eventually. Could be this. No. I'm not very good at picking. Ah. Yeah. Like this. Right? Like this nice thing here. Right? What you could do is cut that out. Isolate it. Make all about it transparent. And then add it to another asset-y thing, you know? Make a new asset out of it and then add it to your widgets. As like, you see how this is like 4, right? Well, if you were to remove this and have just one of these, then you could basically make a widget where it's maybe top left, top right. And this one, or have the 4 but no line in between. You know, you can let your imagination run wild, but as I said, if you've got like these icons, right, and we've got a lot of different icons, there's no reason why you can't use parts of them to make up other things, right? So, yeah, that's my thought process on that. Right, some gameplay. Okay, this is just a test map for me running around backs, okay? But we'll disable that for now. I'm just going to do a quick run through of some things you can do. I'm not going to show all of it because I don't even think there's stuff in here. Alright, you can run around. Okay. You can pick stuff up. Go to your inventory. Check it out in your inventory. Right. Open doors. You can pick up food which has disappeared because I think this is a save game. I can, as you see, our health is going down, our time is going, we have our compass, etc, etc. Now we can only light this fire because we picked up the wood, okay? So you can light the fire. And then if you look on the left here, this is going to start, oh. Ah, okay. This is because I was working on the fire, guys, right? So basically, the fire is only lasting for 4 seconds. Oh, Tarkov Mike, what did I get fixed? I was working on the the fire thing, right? And that's why it's kind of weird. But you can light fires and then it affects your temperature. Outside, you've got displacement in the snow so you can see where animals have been. Climb ladders. This is a bit weird because we haven't got an ending one. Right. Then we can bring out our bow. And I'm absolutely terrible at aiming. And our actual bow and stuff isn't working at the moment because we were screwing with that. And that's what, I think, you see this thing here when I screwed about with the bow, right? I think that's what started our problems, right? When I'm going to remove the stuff that was in the bow, right? Now, backs, there's food and everything that you can pick up and eat, and it resets your your health and your hunger, and you have to drink, so there's drinks as well, you can pick them up. There's infected aliens that wander about. These guys have got the wrong skeleton. As I said, we made some major changes in the last couple of days, so everything's not quite right, but we'll be fixing it as we go, as you've already seen. We've got things like these markers here, right? So if we face into the wind, you can see that she puts up her hand, right? Now this actually switches it on, right? But you'll notice that if we walk into this one, it actually stops it, right? So that you aren't reacting to the weather anymore. Like, so if you go inside, this is a trigger to stop you doing it. This is a trigger to start you doing it, right? So there's that. And then we've now got, she's going to speak to herself, right? So we've got triggers that she'll say things, and that's also linked to audio. So if we do decide to do actual live voiceovers, that's all set up and ready to go. Okay, but we're going to have to take a couple look at things here. So you'll notice that if I don't pick up the log this time, nothing happens, right? So we can't light it without this resource, okay? So, but if we pick that up, we can light it, right? Now, if we go into our inventory, you can actually click on this and look at it in your thing here, right? You can drop it. In this case, I'm going to have to do something with the use, right? And obviously that button, right? But we're going to have it that if you can't use an item, then you're not going to be able, this button will basically be, you know, removed. Okay, you've got a weight counter. That's going to obviously stop you moving faster. There's going to be I would say probably two different weight categories. One is going to be your maximum weight that you can move normally, right? So let's say your maximum speed is, let's say 300, right? So up to, let's say 25 kilograms, which is the average a normal person can carry, right? Without any trouble, right? Now, I'm not talking about, you know, obviously a big huge log's going to be a problem, all the rest of it, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about pure dead weight, right? 25 kilograms, right? So you'll be able to carry 25 kilograms without it impeding your movement, right? But what the intention is you can carry over that. Hey, Varsity Records, how you doing? You can carry over the 25 kilograms, but you can't go over, let's say 30, right? 30 is the maximum. Between 20 and 25 is going to impede your movement on a sliding scale, right? Let's say every kilo over takes 25 off of your maximum speed, let's say, okay? So, there is some gameplay. I don't want to load up the actual map because it'll probably go into shader mode. Now, if you guys want to see the start of the actual map, then tell me, right? And what I'll do, Tarkov, we made a couple of other changes last night that you might like. Our interact is now Viking themed and functionally works with key bindings, etc. and we have our character will talk to themselves. If I can hit there we go. Have I seen Dagger? Are you asking me? I'm going to assume that you're asking me. I think I have. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I have. I don't think I have it, but I think I've seen it. Or maybe I have it, or I've played it, and I can't remember. Okay, so the idea here, right, is, and these monsters will do it, right, even though I've mucked up the thing at the moment, is these monsters will not come near the fire, right, but obviously only if I switch the fire on. Okay. Now here's a good one. This gives me an idea here. Now I can actually, the funny thing was that we did actually show a widget at this point, right? But because all our buttons are empty, then it actually shows an empty widget. So what I can do there is add a widget switcher and put this item needs a resource. Okay, which I don't have. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to grab a cigarette, so if you're enjoying the content, hit like and subscribe. And thanks to all those, if you're still here, who subscribed and got me over the 700, it's very much appreciated, right? Check out the description for the Groenland Discord server. We'd love to see you guys over there. And my personal Discord server as well, where I answer questions on Unreal Engine and help people out and try to be a generally okay guy. Dude's a bit, I'm not a dude by the way. I'm a bit old to be a dude. I'd be the oldest dude there is. Right? And also a link to my previous game on Steam, which is only $1, and also my Patreon. Right, enough shilling. I'm going to try and load the actual level and show you guys it, right? And we'll see how that goes. Okay, and if that doesn't go well, we'll fix the fire and we'll fix her shooting animals again and skinning them, right? Because that's another part of the game. You can shoot the wildlife and it gives you food if you skin them, etc, etc, and it's got an arrow cam. Okay, Bax, well, I hope to see you again. Hope you're interested enough to come back, but certainly nice to have you here. Anyway, oh, it was Bax that wanted to see the first level. Right, I'll tell you what, while I'm having my cigarette, you guys, yea or nay on loading up the first level, the actual first level, to give you a quick look. Okay, don't go anywhere, I'll be back in 2 minutes. Okay, guys, we are back. Right, I'm going to show this. I'm going to try and show this. Now, I know that Kent has made some changes to this map so that it should load faster. Right? But, as I said, we might have a bit of a wait. So, you guys, you guys got any questions? Anything? Well, I don't know if this is going to work or not. I might have to run it from the main menu. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Well, what are you fascinated by? Just the game, or me doing things, or the logic, or the... It's interesting to know what people are interested in when they watch these types of videos, because, right, obviously if I watch a video like this, it's basically seeing what other people are up to, seeing how advanced they are. Oh, it's not easy. I always say that to people that Unity, Unreal Engine, Godot, all of these game engines kind of advertise themselves that, oh, anybody can make a game and it'll take you about a day and a half and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's just simply not the truth, right? You can easily get things on the screen. You can easily make them do things, but to actually, you know, you got to think of all the things in the background, like the menus, the data storage, the levels, you know, all the fundamental things in the game that actually make it work. Right, this is weird. This is weird. And we've got 2000 shaders. Right, because this is actually not the start. I think Kent was testing. Right, because this, I think, is the top of... No, that's the top of the stairs, right? So we actually want to go down. Right, we're going to get a bit of stuttering here as we compile shaders. Obviously this wouldn't happen in the finished game. Right, but I'll try to take you from where you begin. Right, so this is kind of where you start. Right, I'm hoping I can get over this wall. Okay, because I was hoping not... I was hoping not to have to activate this cut screen at this point. I might be able to walk around this side. Okay, so this is where you start, right? And I've still got to set this up. Rapid Demon. Hi mate. Right, so that's, I'll take note of that. Okay. So we're still compiling shaders. So I'm trying to talk you through this as we compile shaders, so that at least something's happening. Right, but I'm going to have to take note of this talk thing, right? Because that's going to have to get changed in style, which is fine, right? And then the actual talk box is going to have to get done as well, right? So that is going to have to get put in our text box, right? Now, I kind of knew that. Now, if I walk through here, I'm going to trigger a cutscene, and it's going to get choppy, right? Okay, maybe he's taking the cutscene out for testing purposes, right? But if you look, very nice. We have our Viking ships, etc., bobbing up and down. Idle animation for what? It already does. I don't know how much you know, Rapid, but this heavily relies on animations. The thing about like the third person idle animation and all that is they move quite a lot, right? But in real life, when you're idle, you don't actually move that much, right? But you can see she's moving. That's me idle, okay? Oh, for the NPCs, don't worry about that, mate. That's all done, right? These are just old characters that have been left in for the moment. We have them set up to do jobs and stuff, right? And they'll follow a day-night cycle. Yeah, they're just T-posing because we did a lot of work on it over the past week, and we changed a lot of stuff, and there was a couple of problems, and yeah, they're working. It's just they've not been those ones haven't been replaced yet, basically, right? Because basically what happened was we moved them over to a generic skeleton so that we could use a lot more different models, right? Rather than having to retarget every single animation to every single model, right? So that was the reason for that, right? So this is the opening, which has changed, I think, because this used to have a building that you could go straight in. Yeah. Yeah, there's a fire in there. And that was weird. Right, there's weird stuff. The lighting needs redone. And there's something going on with it interacting that, mate. In this. Ah, this is using a different game mode. That's why. Right, this is using a different game mode. Okay, so you can stop fires, you can do all that stuff, right? This is kind of killing us here on the shaders, right? But you come in here, and I only seen this for the first time the other day. There's blood dripping from the ceiling. As I said, the level designer's working on this, so he's probably mucked about with the lighting a bit. And of course, it's a day-night cycle, so at night it's going to look dark. or darker. So it's 9:21:22. Yeah, this the time. See, yeah, okay. There's a lot of things that haven't been implemented yet in this map, right? Like the correct game mode is not correct, and the right light and time cycle isn't correct either, right? But the idea here is these people won't be just like standing about. These guys will all have jobs and stuff, right? Which we have got, but these obviously haven't been set up yet, right? And I wonder, yeah, this ain't going to work. Well, it's going to work, but it's not going to work very well. See, there's a fire there, right? I don't know why it did that. Right, and these fires aren't working right because basically I'm ended the fires, right? To only work for a certain amount of time, right? And that was one of the things we were working on when we had a bit of an issue or two with weird things happening and all the rest of it, right? But there's mysterious caves that you've got to find, there's all sorts of things, but that is just a quick look at the start. Obviously a lot of things working on the test map that don't work in here at the moment because they need updated. How did I learn how to do this? Well, it helps when you've been programming for 45 years and you've been doing it professionally for 25. Right, that kind of gives you a good head start on how to do things programmatically. But as in learning Unreal Engine, now, well, I didn't work in games, right? I've never worked in games, right? But it's just okay. You guys want a trip down memory lane? And I'll show you what my first project was in Unreal Engine. And then I'll show you what my first actual game was that I released on Steam on Unreal Engine. And then the other two projects after that, one is something I'm going to go back to because it's my dream game, right? It's like Factorio and Satisfactory, which I have working to a fair degree. And then I made another game as a break from my Factorio game, to teach somebody how to do stuff. And they wanted to make a game, right? And I ended up making the game for them. Well, not for them, right? But basically I was teaching them, and they had paid like $50 on my Patreon, so I was going to have to show them how to do it. They were due like an hour a month, right, of my time teaching them. And I don't mind teaching people anyway when I've got a bit of spare time. But anyway, he wanted to make a specific type of game, and he told me a video to watch, And then basically what I did was said, right, okay, well, if he's going to ask me questions about making this game, I'm going to have to write the game myself to find out the problems he's going to have, right? So, yeah, there was that. So, let's break it down. Okay? Now, we're probably going to have huge shader issues, but we'll just go through it in order. And we'll see what we can do. Right, so what I did was I went, right, okay, I've got to do something that I know is should be within my capabilities. It's an old game, right? So not 100,000,000% complex, right? But still a challenge, because basically any game's a challenge, right? Because, you know, it's not easy. Okay, so I decided to make Dungeon Master. Okay, now if you weren't around in the 80s, you'll never have heard of this game, but it was kind of the first pseudo real-time dungeon crawler, right, that came out on the Atari and the Amiga, right? So what I did was I says, right, I'm going to use Unreal Engine and I'm going to make Dungeon Master. Okay, so I just basically went through it bit by bit and from knowing absolutely nothing, just basically learn over the space of 9 months how to do the basics. In fact, it's probably longer than 9 months. It was probably a year, right? Just working away at it, trying things out, seeing things that worked, seeing things that didn't work, gradually building up your skills. And the thing is, right, you have plateaus, right? You have steep learning curve, like right at the start, right? When you're first learning Unreal Engine, everything is completely alien to you. You've got no idea what you're doing. You don't know how things work. So it's a bit slapdash, right? And then you gradually, you learn a little bit, you hit the next level, right? And then at each of these levels you realise, crap, I need to start again. Okay, so what I normally say to people is, your first project isn't going anywhere, right? It's never going to be a game, but don't worry about it, right? Just learn stuff, make the mistakes, learn some more stuff, make more mistakes, then move to the next project, right? And then your next project will be the same, right? You'll mess about, you'll learn a bit more, you'll do a couple other things, some bits will work, some bits won't, and then you'll throw that in the bin, right? And then you'll sit down and go, right, I'm going to actually do something here. So what I suggest to people is, pick a game that you like, pick something simple, right? Pick something that's within your capability, right? You understand the game completely, so you should be able to match the mechanics into Unreal Engine. And then what to do is do a menu, make it look as close as you can to the original menu as an exercise. Do that, and then just work through it, right? And then probably what you'll find is you won't finish that one either, right? But you'll get on, so that, you know, somebody might say that looks like that, which was the point in the first place, right? And by the time you've went through all of that, basically, you're ready to make your first actual attempt at an actual game, right? The problem most people make is they try to write Grand Theft Auto 6 on their first attempt, and it's just never going to happen, right? Even if they had the X amount of years that it would actually take you in man hours to do that, you're not going to accomplish it, right? You've got to accomplish things so that you know you're making progress. You know that, this is all worthwhile, right? So, I got so far on the keep, which is the Dungeon Master thing. And then I thought, right, okay, I'll have to make some money. Which wasn't a good idea, by the way, because it hasn't made pretty much not very much money at all, right? But I says, right, I'm going to do something that's within my capability, isn't that hard, is based on another game. Let's do that. And that's how I made FTD2, which is, it's basically Fantasy Tower Defense, right? And the reason it's called 2 is because I downgraded it from 4.26 to 4.25. I'm just talking here while this thing loads, right? And that's why it became the 2, right? Because I named the first project FTD, right? And from start to finish, I did it in 4 months, right? The whole thing. And I wrote it twice. Now, I wrote it twice and I downgraded it so that I could include high scores, a high score table online, right? That's the reason for that. Because the particular asset to do the high scores didn't work in 4.26. Up to that point, I'd made the whole thing in 4.26, right? And then I went, okay, I want to use this asset. It's the easiest one to use. It's simple to set up, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So basically, I went, I'm using this. Crap, I can't unless I go back to 4.25. So basically, I rewrote the whole thing in a week, right? Just copy and pasting stuff over, rejoining nodes up, blah, 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 blah. And basically, it was on Steam within 4 months. Okay? And after the excitement of that, thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to get some money now. No. Got a bit. Didn't get my deposit back. If you guys know, right, if you get a key to publish on Steam, it's $100, right? And it's only after $1,000 in sales that you get your $100 back. Okay, it's obviously to stop people spamming crap games onto the system, right? So, I haven't got my money back yet, which will tell you how well we've done. So, but the good thing was that in those 4 months, I got more experience. I was basically working 12 to 16 hours a day on the thing, right? And what it was I'd based it on Defense Grid. If anybody's seen Defense Grid, if anybody's played it, tower defense game, pretty popular, really good game. Actually my favourite tower defense game. I just completely based it on that, right? Except I set it in a fantasy world with cannons instead of lasers and, blah, blah, blah. And instead of little aliens running around, it was like, your fantasy monsters. It was like your, zombies. It was your, orcs, trolls, kobolds, all that stuff, right? And yeah, so learned a lot for that. Then the next thing we did, here we go. Now, the reason I stopped making Keep and started doing the tower defense game was because it was taking so long to create content for it, because all of the levels were handcrafted. Even though they had procedural parts to them, they were actually all handcrafted, right? So yeah, there was that. And basically at that point as well, while working alone, if I needed an asset, I had to try and make it myself, right? So I was learning a bit of Blender as well, and I was learning also, what do you call it, Substance Painter, right? And if you've ever had anything to do with those two programs, you'll realise that they are, it's like learning Unreal again, right? But twice, because you're doing it for two different programs, right? There's a heck of a lot to Substance Painter, there's a heck of a lot to Blender. So you end up, you're learning three things. You're learning Unreal Engine, Blender, and Substance Painter. Okay, I'm trying to give this a chance to load, by the way. Right, but if I don't know how this even works anymore. Right, but if we load the main menu, alright, and this started with my very first, well, this project, right? I had as I said, I had a couple of non-starters, while I was, not 100% fumbling about in Unreal Engine. This was the first one where I wasn't 100% fumbling about, right? And my philosophy is, if it's in a AAA game, it goes in my game. If I can do it, right? There's things I can't do, right? But, for example, keybinds. If it's in a AAA game, it goes in my game, right? So if keybinds are in a AAA game, which they normally are, then it goes in my game. Because why wouldn't you do it, right? You want the player, you want your game to do exactly what the player expects, right? You never want to have the player disappointed in your game because it doesn't do what they want, right? So a simple example of that is keybinds, right? I know a lot of people use keybinds, right? Now, what would it be like if you were to pay your money for this game? Don't know how much it's going to be, by the way. But let's say you booted up your AAA game, right? And your favourite, the way you play a game is with I, J, K, and M, right? And you can't play the game like that because there's no keybinds, right? And it doesn't matter if it's an indie game or a AAA game, there's no reason not to do that apart from laziness, right? Because anybody that produces a game on Steam that's worth playing at all should be able to do it, right? So, that's my philosophy. If it's in a AAA game and I can do it, then I do it. Did I press play on this? Apparently not. Well, it has got a lot of bloody shaders to go. This is a problem when you're trying to load these things up and show people. The problem is that every time you load up a new thing, basically your screen, it does all the shaders for everything. Right, so as you can see from this, we've got every single setting that you could possibly require, right? So there's key bindings in this, and this was my first ever attempt at a game, right? And these work, everything works here, right? Save games, new game, I had to work out how to do save games, because if any of you know, straight out the box, Unreal Engine only really gives you access to one save game. So I had to get around that problem, and I did that myself, and I came to the same actual solution as you're supposed to do it, right? But neither here nor there. So what you can do is create a new game, and we'll call it YT test, right? Create. This might be a while, so hang in there, guys. So this is the first thing that I know how to do better, right? This widget switcher, I've now got a couple of ways to actually have this not do that, right? Right, because this is a sign of a rookie, right? The widget, the circular throbber, and it's stopping when you press load. That is the biggest, you're as well putting on the flashing lights and the all singing, dancing, cabaret girls coming dancing across the screen, even though it wouldn't because it's loading. But there's no bigger sign than rookie than circular throbber stops while it's loading. It's obviously a lot more obvious because we're loading shaders, but there you go. We could, I shouldn't have loaded this, right? I should just have showed you a video, because actually there's videos on this in my YouTube channel, right? There's a trailer and things like working on torches to make them look like real torches instead of, when you get it and the torch doesn't really flicker, there's a constant sort of light source thing, and it's like working on things like that, right? And that's kind of the mindset I have as well, is when I see something on the screen and I'm not happy, then I'm not happy and I've got to fix it and I've got to make it better, right? Within reason, within reason. So, anybody, any questions up until now? Talk to me here in the chat. It's not a very nice feeling when your game is basically loading shaders and you're kind of lost for words. Yeah, so what you got to remember here is this is me 3.5 years ago, right? Now, you guys will probably think, oh my god, that's incredible for like starting, right? But this was over the course of like 9 months to a year, figuring out how to do things, and again, almost working, 8 hours a day on it, right? Try to learn. What's taking so long to load? 6,065 shaders. That's what's taking so long to load. As I said, I probably shouldn't have even started this. I'd be better stopping this and trying to load in something a bit less. Going to task manager it, right? I'm not waiting for 6,000 shaders. That would be ridiculous. Right, let's open this again. And we'll try another thing. Right, I'm not going to try and open something like Fabrica Espace. I'm just going to try and open FTD is the tower defense game. That's the one that's on Steam. And this might be the one to do, right? This came, as I said, if you were on earlier. Blender's the best for indie developers, right? If you've not got, well, basically because it costs nothing, right? And it can basically do pretty much everything that the other ones can do. The other ones might be a bit better here and there on different things, but Blender's not far behind. Right. This is something that came from somebody asking to give them tuition. Okay? And this is called, I was told this ended up being, right, here's the thing. The person who wanted tuition told me to take a look at Dark Deception. Any of you guys out there played Dark Deception? Right? It'd be good to know if any of you guys have played Dark Deception. Right, I'm waiting for an answer, but I'll continue talking to see if I get an answer. Right, so I didn't actually have the game at this point, right? It was only much later that I actually loaded it, right? It's free, by the way, or the first party is free. The person who wanted tuition asked me and said, have you seen this game? And I went, no. So he sent me a link in the YouTube, right? Now, the reason I didn't download it was I didn't want to be too influenced by it. I just wanted to take a quick look at the video at certain section points in the game and then just basically do my own interpretation of it, right? Now, if you know anything about it, it's basically Pac-Man, but a bit scarier, right? That's the best way to describe it. Now, it has been described to me as a backrooms game, and having looked at that, I was intrigued. So I had a look at backroom games, and I really don't think it is, right? I can kind of see a little bit of, but not really. So, once again, here we are. Okay? So, basically, I can't even remember what this menu looked like, but I wanted this character, and this was added later. This a pianist? No, it's actually a synthesizer, well, a workstation, and a tinker. I'm not very good, but anyway, that's not mine, It's the same as mine, but it's not mine, so it's not my hands, right? But it is the same workstation as I've got. It's a Phantom, Roland Phantom X8, right? So basically what I did was write the game, okay? So, you know, it's got all the key binds, you can add them, visuals, display, audio, it's got gameplay settings, blah blah, right? And I just do things for a laugh, right? So like, I would do things like, you know, right, we want to animate him, right? So I'd say, right, okay, if we've got credits, let's say, or credits, let's make them clap because that's credits, right? So people have, the credits is for Patreons, so it's people that have helped you out, right? So you clap them, right? So just stupid things like that, right? Okay, play game, away we go, right? I was just having fun with it, right? So then what we did was, right, we needed a world. We needed a hub, right? Because you go to different levels, right? That's the idea, right? So I needed a hub. So I created a hub. Well, I actually created the hub after the fact. I created a level before I did any of this stuff, right? But hopefully this won't take too long to load. As I said, it's the usual with Unreal Engine. It's if you change over projects, it tends to muck up your shaders and take a while to load again. And as I said, this all came about from somebody wanting tuition and showed me a video of Dark Deception, and then I just ran with it for a while because I was getting kind of burned out on my Fabrica Espace, which was the Factorial Satisfactory game. So this was like a breath of fresh air, and I was making so much progress on it that I was like, right, I'm not stopping, right? Because I've nearly got a whole game. In fact, this is a whole game, right? If I added a few levels, this is a whole game. Right? It's hooked up to Steam. It's got everything. Don't know why it's not working. As I said, it doesn't help either that I'm streaming, because obviously that takes away from your GPU as well. I don't think it's loading shaders. I don't actually know what the problem is here. Although it must be shaders. Right? Because it is doing something. Ah, there we go. Right, it is doing shaders. Look, there's no... Now, the thing is, right, while I was doing this, I was still learning. Right? I'm always learning. Right? So, like, I was doing some cool stuff with this. Right? Making writing disappear, making it appear, all of this stuff, right? That one's not, so that's unlocked. So these paintings unlock writing as you go. Yeah, it's because it's the shaders. It's because it's doing shaders. Right? think that head wobble, the head bob's a bit strong. Right, I could jump into this level, right, but there's not really much point because it's just going to go to shaders again. And, well, it's not letting me anyway. I probably need to reset the save games and stuff. Right, but the likes of this, right? There's more to this than meets the eye. That is procedurally generated, right? The bottles and all the rest of it, all the contents of that are procedurally generated. Okay, now this is, as I said, this is amalgamating things that I learned in every single project to get to this point, right? So in the Dungeon Master game, I started doing procedural stuff, right? Yeah, that's a bit weird. So this bookcase, right, that is procedurally generated, where the books are. Okay? The simplest way to show you this is, if I stop that, right, it's still doing shaders anyway, so it won't make any difference. Right, if I go to maps and I go to gateway, that's that level, by the way, it's called gateway, right? Right, you can see it's loading, gradually loading things in. Right, you can see that our bookcase is actually empty, right? And this bookcase, you can see that it's set up so that you can tell it if you want few, average, lots, or full, and then you can tell it if you want a random one or not. So if I press play, it will set itself up, right, with the books. So every time you come in here, this bookcase is going to look slightly different, right? That display cabinet is going to look slightly different, right? It's going to have different items in it, etc, etc. So you can wield these things. You can see there, sweet tooth, blood donor, minute steak, right? So those were kind of tongue-in-cheek names I gave them. You'll notice as well, by the way, the wallpaper, right? Watch. If I stop this, you'll notice it's a completely different wallpaper, right? If I press play, it's a different wallpaper every time, right? So I'm creating random procedurally generated bookcases. I'm picking random wallpaper, and I actually size the wallpaper as well, right? The wallpaper has got like 4 different, it's a material instance, right? So it's got 4 different variables in it, which is basically the foreground, background colour, foreground colour, right? And then the size of the pattern, right? So there's actually about 120,000 different wallpapers that you can get, right, by multiplying all these things together, you know. So I took the base colours off of everything, right? And then if you multiply that, you've got a foreground colour, background colour, so you can times that by 2, right? So that gives you 16. And then you've got a pattern size between like, I can't remember what it is. It's like a float between, let's say it's 1 and 2 or something, right? So you multiply that by 100 and you end up, I can't remember, it's 20,000 different wallpapers, and it's all procedurally generated, right? And then you've got, obviously, this bookcase can be generated how you want. The cabinet over here is generated how you want. So I had ideas for this, right? And then you could come up here, and this clock actually works, right? You can see that the second hand moves per second and stuff. It's just these little details in your game, right? These little details mean everything to the player, right? It's like, isn't that cool that the clock actually works? And it does tick and all the rest of it as well, right? So, I think, is it, I can't remember the button to go in here. I was thinking it would be enter, but I think there's a save game issue. Right, so what we'll do is we'll just go straight into level 1 and we'll see if it actually works. Right, so back to the point. Remember I was telling you guys about, it was Pac-Man. Well, you'll get to see it here, right? Hopefully. Right. Here's others. You see, this is where things pop up, right? And you learn how to do something, and it becomes useful in the next project. Or it can be the key component of a next project, right? What this is here, this is interesting, right? I'll show you what it is you've got a camera here and a camera here, right? And it bore out of gameplay, right? Because you've got your map, okay? This is an enclosed map, corridors, Pac-Man style, 3D, monsters chasing you, okay? That's the basic premise. Yes, we use GitHub for saving stuff, right? Now, here's the thing. I wanted a teleport functionality, okay? Cool. But how do you know that on the other side of the teleporter isn't a monster? Okay? And you think, oh, how do I solve that? Well, you can do it, right? And what you do is use render targets, and this is what these things are, okay? And this is at the very start of the level, so I should be able to show you it if the thing ever loads, right? So basically, we've got these cameras basically look left and right to give you a view of the hall, so that you know when you jump, you're safe, right? Now, these are right next to each other, but they don't need to be. They can be anywhere in the level, right? So, the render target was something I had used in my previous game, which was the Fabrica Satisfactory thing, right? Because I had a supply rocket, okay? But you wanted to know when the supply rocket was at the station, right? So what I did was make like a little TV screen that followed the rocket as it came in and landed, and then the TV disappeared, and then when it was going to take off, the little TV screen on the top right hand side brought up the rocket again and then followed it as it went into orbit, right? So there's always a sort of gameplay element to what I'm doing here, even though some of the things end up really being cool, right? But there was always a gameplay design reason to have it in the game, right? The problem with the previous game and the reason I had the rocket on a TV screen was that the camera moved about, right? And you had a landing pod, so the landing pod would never necessarily be on the screen, right? But you needed to communicate with the player that the rocket was coming into land, right? So that you could basically trade with it, right? Because you could only trade with it while it was on the planet, right? So, and what I thought was, well, you know, we've all seen pictures of the, you know, a rocket taking off, blah, blah, blah. So why not do that, right? And we can obviously make it land as well, right? So that's how that idea was born, right? And then the same with this teleporter. It was like, right, how do I solve the issue where a player jumps through a teleporter and is immediately killed? Well, I can show them what's on the other side of the teleporter, right? By using 2 render targets. Okay? And that's how that happened. So basically, we pick up these things, right? And this is going to bring up our mini map once the shaders. This is not going to take as long, right? But these are pickups, right? There's like the pips on Pac-Man, right? And then there's special ones for, like, this one is the one that shows the mini map, right? And the mini map's not working, and that's probably because we didn't come into the game properly, right? And also probably because we're still loading shaders, right? Yeah, I'll tell you what, guys, I'll go and grab a cigarette while this is loading up the shaders, and then we'll go through it, okay? So all those interested in seeing how this looks at the end, we've only, not too bad on shaders, we've only got 1400. That might go to, oh, we've got our mini map now, right? So I had to learn, right, for this game, right, I already knew how to do render targets, right? There was a couple of problems with that, but I already had a general idea. I had no idea how to do a mini map, right? So I had to learn how to do a mini map, and it's the same sort of thing. It's a render target, and then just working with the render target and getting it to do the things you want. Right now on the left you can see that I've picked up 3 out of 113, right? Now I don't know if you guys can hear this or not, right? And you've got 5 pickups there, right? As you get pickups you move faster, okay? I really want to show you these render targets, because it's pretty darn cool, right? And now, so from this game, right, so we had a render target for our rocket. That was one simple render target, okay? And now we're doing 2, where each render target passes its texture to the other one so that it can show the opposite one, right? Now you could take this further and use your imagination, and you've got Last Night at Freddy's, the surveillance system, right? So you've got your 6 TVs, you put 6 render targets on them, you put 6 cameras for the render targets in your game. You've got 5 Nights at Freddy's. You could also use it for something like a Metal Gear Solid, where I'm pretty sure they had the same sort of thing. right? You could, it's up to your imagination really. You can use it how you like. It's like you could use it to justify, like, if a camera sees you, right? Well, basically you could play back what the camera saw to the player as like their death screen, right? So that they see, camera saw me, right? That type of thing. So the camera's moving like left and right or whatever, up and down, and then, you know, you play the bit where the character comes in, blah blah blah. It's up to you. It's how your imagination works, right? But yeah, there's big monsters and all that here and all the rest of it. And actually, I just do really stupid things sometimes, right? Like, just for a laugh. Because I had this guy, and if you watched it earlier in the main menu when I was pointing and doing that sort of stuff, right? You'll see here, right? What I did was created a disco dance floor, right? Just for a laugh. Just because I could. Right? And make them dance. Right? And that's like the end level. And the better score you get, the better a dance he does. Right? It was just for a laugh. Right? And I thought, can I do this? And I just thought it through and went, yeah, I can do that. It's not hard. And the trick is to do it efficiently, right? This is using all materials, okay? Right, so it's just things like that you do as fun, but also as a learning exercise, right? So these are all just planes set up with a material, and the material is set in the instance, right? And because it's using material instances, it's all fed off to the GPU, so this isn't actually taking much processing power. So yeah, just do stupid stuff, right? That's my... Right, so this is what the gateway looks like, right? And as I said, you can jump into different levels, etc, etc, right? Which asset is it you want to use, Screen Apple? Not sure what you're talking about there. Right, we've gotten some effects now on our render targets, which is cool. Yeah, I was going to grab a quick cigarette, right? I'll be back in 2 minutes. I'll carry on and let you see how this works, right? Right, I shall be right back. Okay guys, we're back. It looks like our shaders are done. So with that in mind, let's go back to our main menu and see if it actually works from the start. It should. Right, so play game. Enter here, right? So basically you can walk out the door and exit. Right, or you can come up to these paintings, and as it goes, it opens up the different levels that you've cleared. Okay, that's the way that works. Right, so we're going in here. Okay, so you can see here that you've got these things as well, and you've got to break them, right? And this is all procedurally generated. There's these things on the wall, the writing, etc., right? Now I don't know why those aren't working, which is a bit of a shame. Right, so the thing is, right, that these are joined together, right? So if I jump in here, I jump out the other one, right? You'll notice I'm over here now, right? Hi, Noderick Nud, right? So I'm in a completely different, well, I'm over there, right? If I jump to this side, right, I jump over there, okay? So these are close together for testing purposes, right? But you can go around here, blah, blah, blah. You can probably hear this. I can't, because my computer sound is basically right. So we've got, I always get lost in this because this level is far too big, right? So we've got a nice UI going, we break that, we've got nice effects for breaking stuff. We've got procedural paintings on the walls, so this is always going to look different. The wallpaper's always different. The level doesn't change, right? The level stays the same, but you go through, and as you can see, it's pretty much like Pac-Man, right? Simple premise, but there are bad guys, and they are quite scary, right? Got to break through them. The bad guys can't break through the wood, by the way. Now, there is a certain way that I normally go that I could show you the bad guys, right? Now, you can pick up other things that actually make the bad guys stop chasing you for a while. Right? And basically this all came about because of somebody asking me to teach them some stuff, and I just kept at it and it ended up being a game, right? Yeah, that's what it is basically. Apart from Doom you can shoot, in this you can't shoot, right? This is us back to the start, right? But if we go this way, I might have taken out the monsters, you know that? Right, really the wrong way, I think. As I said, I always forget my own bloody game. Right, when you see the size of the level, you'll just go, oh my god, what were you thinking? Right? And it's all timed as well, right? There's time limits for scores, all of that good stuff is all there. It all works. So it calculates a score, doesn't let you go on to the next level unless you get a certain thing, right? Now, I think there's only one bad guy in here, so let's see if we can find them, right? And let's see if we can see him actually moving about, because he should be moving about. I did move him to the complete opposite side of the map. Right, now one of the things that I was disappointed with this is it looks too clean, right? And I was trying to find a way to make things look dirty, and there isn't really. Well, at least I couldn't find a good way of dirtying up the whole place in code, right? Right, you can see on the left I've collected 98 out of 113, right? So there is an endpoint here that there's something that happens at the end of this, right? These are stakes, by the way. Everybody says, yeah, they look like bullets, and yes, I do agree they look like bullets, right? Right, so that shows us where we have to get to, right? On the minimap. So we've got to get to there. So we just basically keep left. Right, and we've got a timer counting down, right? And I must have taken the monsters out. Now, that endpoint can spawn anywhere. Well, actually it can't. It can spawn at certain points. And there we have it. And we only got 1-star rating. 357. There you go. Pretty good, huh? What do you guys think of that? But as I said, this basically got generated to help somebody else out. Right, and I just stuck at it and streamed it. The whole, nearly all of this is on the devlog, like the one I'm doing now. It's basically the devlog of this and me working on it. Right, we did have other ideas for that, but Kent talked me into actually working on the other thing. But there is one more thing. Now, if this goes mad on shaders, right, I'm going to end the stream, right? But we'll try it. Now, this is complicated. This is Fabrica Espace, right? And this is basically me writing Satisfactory and Factorio, and it works, right? 93, I'm hopeful that this might actually load up fast. We'll see. Okay. Right. So again, obviously, all the whole thing works, options, key bindings. Now, this is where I was throwing the kitchen sink at it, right? Because in this game, you can actually change the colours of your menus and stuff, right? In the player options, you can do whatever the hell you want with the colours, right? You can set up the blurs, the text color, border colors. So I can make this look as horrible or as nice as I like. Okay, and that shows you what this info screen is going to look like, and that shows you what the menu is going to look like. Okay, now this game has got everything, right? But we're going to say new game, and we're going to say YouTube test. Okay, now I can't remember how to work this game. There's a lot of stuff going on here, right? So these are your unidentified resource. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is send a probe. Right, this is the TV screen of the rocket I was talking about. I can't remember how to play my game. Oh yeah, right, we can click on these now. Right, and you'll notice my drones start doing their dance of beautiful danciness, and they will probe round about to find out the resources now. Right, and they tell us now that this is bauxite. Okay, so what we can do now is put a miner. Okay, and then we can build, I believe we need a refiner. Now you can turn these around. Well, you can turn the camera around as well. I can't remember the buttons. Ah, there we go. Right. So this, we're going to set it, and we select a recipe. We can only select iron ore, right? And it requires bauxite. Okay. Products per cycle 1, cycle speed, current workers, overall efficiency, fully operational, building name. You can even rename your buildings in this game. Right? My smelter. Okay? Well, you're thinking to yourself, well, this isn't very exciting. Well, what we can do now is we can switch over to, come on, this is a work in progress. Right, why on earth can I not do? I've forgotten how to play my own game. Right, but I should be able to. There's something weird going on there. Right, see how, look, it's created bauxite. See, these should actually light up. See, that's lighting up. There's something wrong with this miner. That's the problem. Right, okay. What we'll do is we'll probe there. this is going to be a successful game, right? It's just not finished yet. It's not anywhere near finished because it's so complicated, right? The systems that are behind this are very, 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 very complicated. Right, now we've found copper ore and we've found bauxite and bauxite again. So we're going to try and do it here. Right, and then, right, here we go. Here you can do, and it recalculates the right, this is plain nice. And I think it's because you can't run over resources. Right, there we go. And you'll see now we have our stuff. Okay. Now this is the stuff that had built up because it's got a buffer, and now it's just going to go really slow, right? But now this is going to make stuff, right? This is obviously going to make iron ore, right? So what I can do now is I can make a smelter, right? And I can tell it to make iron sheet, and it's going to use iron ore to make the iron sheet. Okay. And there we go, here it comes. Not a very good representation of iron ore, but there you go. Right, and the next thing we can do is we can create a fabricator, right? And we can tell it to make widgets. Widgets are made with iron sheet. Right, we can make batteries, we can make computers, we can make all of this different stuff. And we're going to do research type 1 in a minute, right? Now, I don't know what research type 1 actually takes. This was me in testing mode, so if I do that, it takes iron sheet, right? So that's not the finish, but that's the current. So we can then build this to here. It's not perfect yet, so right. You can see that these are now coming out, right? And now what we can do is we can metalworks science station. We can do a science station, then we can close that. It says no research required or no research selected. So what we can do is we can go to our research tree. Okay, now the green means it's ready to go, and we're going to do mining. Okay, so researching, and you'll notice this now says mining, and we can join this up, right, like so, and now we will get Now I have got a time dilation button, but I can't remember what one it is. Now this takes a bit longer because these obviously we're multiplying the number of items you need to make a certain thing, right? And it's all these calculations are done, right? So you can see that these are dodging away, dodging away. And this isn't going very fast. I had another button as well that I could add workers, which made everything a lot faster as well. Right, but you'll see that there's a rocket again, right? Now, where's a rocket about? A rocket's down here somewhere. Right, there's a rocket, right? So when it's away, you can't actually trade. Oh, by the way, this like oh, what did I do that for? Ah, I hit the wrong button. Right, if I come down here, right, here's the rocket, right? Now, you can trade and buy and sell stuff, right, with a rocket. The rocket has got, it was going to have like an actual economy, right, so that you couldn't cheese it. Right, but you'll notice this trading window go away. Or maybe it won't. Right, but there is something that would tell you can't trade, right? But it's got, as I said, it's got graphs as well, right? It's got all sorts of stuff. And you've got an inventory on hand. Oh yeah, you can craft by hand as well. So like, if I say craft 5 of them. So you can see it's got this. It does all that kind of stuff. Right, so it's got everything. It's got the basis for everything to work as far as this type of game goes. Okay, but it just does need a lot more work. And I need more assets and stuff. Oh, and by the way, the probes work. They're AI. The probes are AI. The way they work. Right, they just go through a series of motions. You know, like up, to place, down, scan, up, rotate, back here, land. But they're all timed slightly different, so it looks really cool. and that is Fabrica Espace. What do you think of that one, guys? Do you like that one? What's this one? Trading. Yeah, you can remove the buildings, do all that, research, you know, research tree works. You can drag the research tree, so I can make the research tree as big as I want. Okay. This all works as well, right? And it all affects stuff, you know? Like your mine one gives you 2% or something. I can't remember exactly how I set it up, but it all works. And also this hotbar works, right? You can actually, I don't quite remember how to do this, but you can amend the hotbar. Like that, right? And then you can like swap stuff, so you can amend the hotbar however you want. And then in the key bindings, you can key bind these however you want as well, right? So this all works as well. Okay. So I hope you've enjoyed that little look at a few of the other things I've been working on. I'm going to work on this again, no doubt. And I'm going to work on that, the Chronicles, again, right? But we need Groenland to be successful for that to happen. So, guys, if you've enjoyed the stream, it's been a bit of a longer one today, with all that, showing all that stuff. Hit like and subscribe. Thank you all for getting me to over 700 today. That's fantastic. Check out the description for links to Groenland, the Discord server, my personal Discord server, and there's links to my Patreon where you can support the channel and the games, and also my previous game on Steam, which I'll show you that one in a future stream, okay, if you ask for it. I'll show you how that one works. So thanks again for watching, guys. I shall see you tonight at 8 PM. So hope to see you there. Screen Apple, Tarkov Mike, Noderick Nude, who else? Whoever else was in the chat. There was a few today. Rapid Demon, Bax, Over City Records, Stormrun Gaming, Weep Game Lover, La Casa del Gaming, Generic NPC. Yeah, a lot of people in today. So it was good to see y'all. I'll be back later. Bye bye for now.